Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on October 3rd, 2017. I'd like to call tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting to order. If we could, I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could, before we begin our meeting, I would like to ask everyone in the audience to join me in a moment of silence in light of the events that happened the other day in Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Thank you. All right, first on tonight's agenda is the minutes from the September 19th, 2017 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the minutes from the September 19th, 2017 Board of Selectmen's meeting as presented.
Second.
Mike's going to have to second. You two are going to have to
Second.
All right, hearing a motion, here in second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0-2. All right. First up on the agenda is Waters Farm Days. Ooh, is it October already? I think it is.
On up.
It is.
All right, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for having us here. My name's Robert Chauvin. I am the new president of Waters Farm. This is Pam Farnham. She is a board member at Waters Farm. What we'd like to do is just bring you up to speed on what's going on at Waters Farm, or what has come to pass over the summer. We've had a great year. We've had lots of events go on. We're also going to bring you a little update on farm days of the events we have going on. We had a great year. The barn project that we had at Crowback Barn first stage is done. The barn is all down, stored at Waters Farm in a tractor trailer. So we're planning on the next phase, probably after farm days, of planning to go into resurrection of the barn up at the farm. So with that, we'll move on to the events we had through the summer. We had a lot of events go on this year. We've had tractor pulling every month. We've had great attendance at the dinners we've had, and I've seen plenty of you there this year. Thank you for coming. We've also had a lot going on with trying to get children and some of the other things. We've had a movie night. We've got a big plan for the children at Farm Days. A big area of it is designated just for the kids this year. We've also had great work days. We've had a lot happen. We've had some help from the Sheriff's Department. They came down, gave a little paint job on the house, did some brush cutting, so the place is looking beautiful now. So we have quite a bit more in store for the rest of the year, but as the year unfolds, we'll unveil those things. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Pam, and she's going to give you an update on everything that's going on with the farm days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For people that don't know, Waters Farm was occupied for 230 years, from 1757 till Dorothea passed away in 1987. It allows us the ability to have an ox pulling a cart and have a guy driving a tractor. Most of the living history museums that you attend are stuck in one period of time. We just inherited an ox cart that's gorgeous that Bob picked up. It was offered to Sturbridge Village and it was too new. It's 1870, they couldn't take it. So we now have a pristine ox cart that has never been outside. So it's one of the great things that we get to have come to us. So there'll be a lot of traditional, old-fashioned agricultural things going on, from antique engines, tractors, tractor pulls, and things. We have a pretty expansive animal representation this year, mostly with Paul Dunn, our 4-H leader. He's providing a petting zoo. He's going to have his cattle there. For younger children, he's going to have an activity called Learn to Show a Cow. And kids will be given a ribbon that says, I learned to show a cow at Waters Farm Days. And then we also have, through the fire department Explorer group, they're going to do Gear Up with the fire department. So little kids can come and put on the coats and put on the helmets and all that thing. Nice. And they're going to dual man a tent. The sheriff's department is sending us a lot of information, some junior badges and things, but didn't have staffing for us. So the Explorer group's going to set up a tent, do both, try to recruit some new membership for their post from age 14 and up. And then the fire department is also doing a Jaws of Life demo both days. They did it 2 or 3 years ago. It was fabulous. And they've obtained the smokehouse. And it's nice because we're heading into Fire Safety Week, so that'll be there on Saturday for the kids to go through. One of the unique things that happened this year that we've been working on for a while, we have a new generation of mostly moms who are taking over children's activities. And they know what their little kids like to do. And they have all kinds of crafts. They have bounce houses. They have games set up. There will be things that will be free to people. So if everybody can't afford to pay for something, there'll be plenty to keep them busy. They're going to have a photo booth. We have the Irish step dancers from Bridget Murphy's group coming for demos. We have the Green Bean workshops are doing a couple performances. We've got local musicians coming. I was trying to check my notes. Some of the other things for children is Fran Donnelly does interactive blacksmithing demonstrations where they get to make something out of metal. And on Sunday when we have our lumberjack show, Joe Reagan has young children's activities, pulp toss and log rolling and things. So after the professional part ends, there's an amateur thing for two-man crosscut, Jack and Jill crosscut, but he also has things he expands every year for children to do. So there's plenty for adults. There's lots of hot apple crisp that will be sold. We made 150 pans or more, and plus Norma made another 70 of the smaller ones that can be sold. And we've got lots of craft vendors, and it should be a great year, and hopefully the weather's going to be beautiful. So we'd like to invite everybody to come on out, and if you haven't been for a few years, it's worth coming to check it out, and there should be something for everybody. And we couldn't do it without the support of, all the folks in town, all the volunteers, and the turnout we get to run farm days is phenomenal.
Wonderful, thank you. John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first I'd like to say is Bob and Pam, I know all the hard work that you've put into this, and it's been ongoing for several months. And just look at the excitement in your faces of the change of everything that we're probably going to have there. And hopefully you made the determination to change the date from October 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, and now to the 14th or 15th, and that's a great thing. So yeah. I wish you well, and I hope the town does go out and support it. And it's a new venue, so people should go up and see for themselves. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So welcome. We appreciate actually having you come before us. It's a great opportunity, I think, to to sell the event a little bit to the town. So, it occurred to me as I was sitting here that, on the one hand, this is the kind of event that really just reminds me of Sutton. That you mentioned all the long history of the property itself, and when I kind of think of traditional Sutton, it's very well represented right here at this event every year. And the second thing that occurred to me is that it's rained every year for how many years now? And the point is that may have discouraged a lot of people from coming over the years. And as you said, maybe people haven't been for a while, or there's newcomers to town. And this is just a terrific event. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot to do. Sounds to me like you've really sort of reinvigorated a lot of things that are there, as well as how good it's been year over year. So, that's what I say to people. Come on out. It's worth a few hours out of your day, and it's a great way to see the town and have a good day. So, come out, people.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Dave. Mike?
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
And promoting it. I think it's fantastic to come out and let people know. Like Selectman Hall had mentioned, because of the weather the last few years, and newcomers to town, it's a good idea, and it's a great event for people to get together in town and to get out and meet people and see all the interesting events that are going on. Are the dogs back?
We're expecting the state police to be there Saturday with their
excellent.
canine.
Now, who brought the dogs before? Was it Alyssa?
Alyssa had brought
Alyssa.
some way back, and then, when Sutton had a canine,
Yep.
there was like a whole cohesive area group, because they would even come train at the farm.
Right.
Yeah, one time, I don't know if most of you knew, but there was a whole bunch of canine officers there, and all the neighbors freaked out because they thought that there was a criminal on the loose and stuff. But it was awesome having them train there, and it's nice and open, and they can get out in the woods. So there seems to be a smaller representation of canine officers in the area, but, we were able to make contact through Alyssa.
That's
And
fantastic.
the state police is, going to give us a day, so.
Great.
Yeah.
So if there's anything I can do, if you want to contact me after the meeting or
love
throughout
to.
the week, that any help that I can do. I know we're doing the Lions up there, and Selectman Lemanik had mentioned about possibly volunteering, so I'll let
Yeah.
him get to that point. But any help at all,
Thank
count
you.
me in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Ray?
Thank you for both for being here. It's good to see you again, Pam.
Thank you.
Living where I live over there on Douglas Road, I get to see the traffic, and a good traffic, though. It's nice to see Waters Farm being used for some great activities. We go up all the time. If we're not walking up there, we're going up to one of the events. So it's been a great year. God bless both of you for really putting the events, and the whole group putting the events together. It's great family time, and as Selectman Hall said, to me it means Sutton. That's what Sutton's all about.
Right,
Bringing people together at a place like that, such a beautiful spot. Keep it up. I look forward to being there that weekend, and I'll be volunteering as well.
Perfect.
And I will also be up there with the Lions, so it'll be up there for a couple of days. Looking forward to
You
it.
want a tent? We'll let you just camp out. Run home to shower.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Ray. I really don't know what else I can to add to this. I mean, this is a wonderful event. It's fantastic. In all the years I've been in town, I think I've gone to Waters Farm, the majority of them, rain or shine. It's always fun. And all the efforts that you guys have put in this year, hopefully it's going to be the best farm days ever. And again, I'm not going to mention the R word, but I've been assured by my friend Glenn King that the date was based upon Farmer's Almanac. So if Farmers says it's going to be a good weekend, I am convinced that we are good, so we'll just leave it at that. And the other thing I'm also going to mention, and I'm just going to mention it once, Apple Crisp. I don't need to say anything else. That's a draw enough for me, so hopefully the town gets out and supports it, and again, like I said, it's the best one ever.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
and we
much.
do have work days this weekend, so if anybody's around, Saturday, Sunday, 9 to 3, we'll be putting lines in the field, and our little Cub Scout friends are going to be helping us run lines. And
Well, I believe I signed up online because I know you posted on
Yeah.
Facebook, so I'll be there. My son will be coming. We'll have our work gloves, and Bob can put us back to work again.
There you go.
And we would be
We'll get your
remiss.
flyers out, too, for
Oh,
you.
perfect, yeah. And if we didn't recognize all of our volunteer base, our directors, our non-director volunteers, and farm days, they come from all over the state. I mean, it's not even Worcester County. They're from everywhere, and
So.
it's an amazing turnout.
Yes, we have to thank everybody that shows up. Maybe a big party afterwards.
Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
All right, as I was reminded, and I would be remiss to skip over, apparently I jumped over public forum. So I'd just like to do that right now if possible. Obviously, this is limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate an individual's rights. Is there anyone here for public forum? All right, jumping back to our agenda items. Number 3, public hearing on a poll. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's appropriate for the clerk to read the notice. It was published in the Millbury Sutton Chronicle.
As advertised in the September 14th, 2017 Millbury Sutton Chronicle, a public hearing notice in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22. You are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017, in the Sutton Town Hall upon petition from National Grid for permission to install, beginning approximately 3,000 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Whitens Road and Gilmore Drive, and continue approximately 225 feet north. National Grid to install new pad mount transformer on private property at 65 Gilmore Drive, installing conduit from pad mount to existing MH2 and conduit from the existing MH2 to new handhole approximately 15 feet north from public to private property, 65 Gilmore Drive, in accordance with plan file herewith marked N-Grid number 229-44456.
Thank you, Dave. I believe we have someone from National Grid here. If you would, just identify yourself to the audience, for the audience.
My name is James Verney. I'm here representing National Grid.
Thank you. Want to tell us a little bit about this project?
Yeah, so basically we're just going to be installing a new pad mount transformer. My notes for this one were it was for street lights. You mentioned there's a church project going on there. I'm not sure if this is related to that. I know this one's for street lights. But yeah, MH2 refers to a National Grid owned manhole in the sidewalk. They're going to be coming out into the roadway. They weren't able to do it on the side of the roadway due to existing utilities in the gutter already. So they will be going down the edge of the roadway, about 225 feet, and feeding the new pad.
All right, excellent. John?
Fine, I think they're up to speed with everything.
Dave?
Yeah, just a quick question. Does it have to cross the road, or is it just along the same side?
Just along the same side.
Okay, fine.
It will be crossing over one driveway entrance, but nothing in the public way.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave. Mike?
Good. Police, fire, and highway look like they were good with it also, so I have no issues.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Rick?
No issues, no questions.
Yeah, I really don't have any issues either. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. Obviously, this was something, I'm assuming that was an outstanding issue, and the fact that it can be resolved, as quickly as possible, I think it's good for the town. I think it's good for the occupants. So I see no issue. Do we need a motion on this or anything?
We do.
Yeah, we do. All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Do we have to close the public hearing first?
All right. So we'll motion for that.
Chairman, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Hearing a motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve poll hearing number 229-44456 from National Grid as advertised in the September 14th, 2007 Millbury Sutton Chronicle.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
It's easy.
All right, next up on the agenda, we have consent to assignment, net metering. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is another issue, the final issue, I think, with this net metering agreement. As you may recall, we signed an amendment to the original contract a couple of weeks ago. We were still working with town council on the consent to assignment. This essentially allows the banks, the financiers of this project, to assign it to another owner if ECOS has financial difficulties, bankruptcy, et cetera. So an important step. We're currently receiving net metering credits, roughly 30% off our utility bills, so it's all positive. But this is an important part to ECOS and their financiers that they have this consent to assignment approved. So I think we have a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the net metering, or the consent to assignment.
Yes, we do.
Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions about this?
I don't. I'm surprised their attorneys missed this to begin with, but whatever.
Yeah,
It's
and
really-
ultimately it was a long slog really with our town council and their council going back and forth. Our town council objected to some of that language and fought back on behalf of the town. And ultimately, ECOS was responsible for paying the attorney's bills, so we'll get a check from ECOS very shortly. So.
But, really, this is much more important to them than to us. This is really
that's true.
their issue, so
Yeah.
I'm fine.
All right, I don't really hear any issue with this, so I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to authorize the chairman to sign the consent to assignment for the net metering agreement between the town of Sutton and Spencer Meadow Solar.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next up on the agenda is the Fall Town Meeting warrant. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will go through this briefly. I think we did go through most of this through the last meeting with the draft. There are a couple of small changes in this, so I'll point those out. Article number 1 is essentially dealing with the excess Chapter 70 money that was authorized by the House and Senate. That's an additional $10 per student, so that's the $14,220. We budget the net of the state aid. It came in $1,392 less, so I needed to raise and appropriate that extra $15,612 to get to the Chapter 70 number that we're going to give to the school department.
Okay.
Article 2 is continuing with our OPEB policy. We're taking $50,000 out of overlay surplus and sending that over to the OPEB trust fund. Article number 3, this is one that the language has slightly changed from the draft. This is to see if this town will vote to amend the vote taken at May town meeting to reduce the amount appropriated from free cash by $280,000 from $696,000 to $416,000, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $280,000. That $280,000 is new growth, and we're reducing the free cash, we're preserving the free cash for future years, and we're installing new growth to cover that difference. Article number 4 is prior year invoices. We have 2 of them. One is $107 to WB Mason for supplies, and the other one is $2,557 for Medicaid processing from the school department. Article number 5 is to establish a commission on disability. This is the Mass General Law that the town meeting needs to adopt to have that happen. Article number 6, this is in case somebody on a board or commission misses a meeting during a public hearing. This is sort of a housekeeping item. The issue came up over the summer, and we realized that the town had never adopted this bylaw or this general law. So this will allow an individual to miss one meeting during a public hearing, assuming they do all due diligence, watching the meeting, sign an affidavit that they viewed the meeting, they understand what they're voting on, and then they can vote at the end of the public hearing. Article number 7 is to authorize a member of the Board of Selectmen to serve on the school building, the library building committee.
No more
school
schools,
building
no more
committee.
schools.
We're well beyond that, hopefully. Article number 8 and 9 are essentially disposition of town-owned property, authorizing the Board of Selectmen to convey them to any entity through an appropriate process. Article number 8 is 25R Putnam Hill Road. That is the old septic system for the school department. As you know, they currently have a treatment facility down there that deals with all this, so that the septic system was abandoned. The land is available, and it's town-owned, so in order to sell it, we need town meeting authorization. Article number 9 is 126 Mendon Road. This lot was half an acre, was donated by Ruth Putnam in 1920-something to the town, essentially to the school department for school purposes only. So there's a process that we need to go through. Step number 1 is going to the town meeting and getting their permission to sell this property. Step number 2, which has already taken place, is the school committee needs to vote to surplus this property, essentially telling town and town meeting that they no longer have a need for this property in its current state. Article number 10, sponsored by the sewer commissioners, is to waive the $5,000 connection fee for the Dudley Gendron Post 414. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we typically do this for all nonprofits. This obviously is a veterans organization that's done a lot for the town of Sutton, and they do pay for the flow. This is just the connection fee to connect. Article number 11 and 12. This is these are two issues that need to be voted on to complete the whole marijuana prohibition process that started last May at that election. We need to approve a zoning bylaw and a general bylaw. Article number 11 is a zoning bylaw. Article number 12 is a general bylaw, essentially doing the same thing of prohibiting recreational marijuana establishments within the town of Sutton. Now, the planning board had a hearing. They voted 3-2 to support this article, essentially saying that the town meeting took this, or the town residents took this question at Maytown election, and they authorized a prohibition by almost a 2-to-1 majority. There was some dissenting members that felt, they would like a potentially a grow facility. I'll just leave it at that. I think that the town's been down this road. We had an election, we approved it overwhelmingly. We approved it in the fall town election where statewide it passed, but in town of Sutton it failed. So it's a pretty clear message that there's just not a lot of support for recreational marijuana establishments. And I don't know whether the law is going to change. Right now it is what it is, but recently the law did change, and there's no longer a need for a town election to prohibit it. You only need a general bylaw and a zoning bylaw to prohibit it. Now, we did that town election. Now it's essentially null and void. But I think the wishes of the people have been stated. So that's just my commentary, but, we'll have to wait to town meeting and see what action takes place. Article number 13 is a sign bylaw. It essentially authorizes signs, town signs, the sign out here, the one at the future police station, and maybe it's the ones down at the school department, which are currently not authorized by the town zoning bylaw regarding signs. Article number 14, this is a non-conform. This is a difficult one. You can see under any non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot may be altered and or extended by right as long as no new non-conformities are created. So, you all get that?
Absolutely.
Jen Hager will be available at town meeting to explain this a little further if necessary. According to Jen and John Kuchar, it's really a housekeeping item that gives John Kuchar the ability to enforce the zoning bylaw. So he felt this was important. He asked the planning board to sponsor this article. A little bit of background. And Article 15 is the library article.
All right, perfect.
Any questions?
None? Dave?
And not so much a question as a comment. The Finance and Warrant Advisory Committee held their public hearing last week on this, and I would say it was a pretty lively hearing as those things go. And if you have any questions on any of these things, I think it's worth finding it on TV and watching it, because there was some really good things that came out about a lot of these. So
Yeah.
it's worth the time.
Thank you. Mike?
Excellent point. To watch that. Just one with the recreational marijuana establishments.
Yep.
11. So it's null and void. You don't need to go to a town vote anymore. The law's changed.
That's correct.
So does that mean that we're unprotected until the bylaw is put in place, or is it because of the moratorium that we're good?
Yeah, we do have an existing moratorium that's in effect until October of next year.
Okay.
So ultimately, if there's a change in heart, we still have Maytown meeting and probably Fall Town meeting next year to make a change. So there's no emergency. But, assuming these issues pass, they can always be reconsidered at at May town meeting or fall town meeting next year.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Ray?
Quick question on the same article. The state still they still don't have guidance on what they're going to do with these facilities yet anyway, right? We're still
That is true.
in limbo.
That is true. They're working on it, but the Cannabis Control Commission, the CCC, hasn't fully issued regulations on how this is going to proceed. So they're behind the eight ball, but ultimately, I think what protects us is the moratorium.
Right.
If these bylaws are passed, then we're fully protected. But regardless, we're protected until the fall of next year.
Good. That's all I had. Thank you.
And let's not forget, even if these bylaws are passed, that doesn't prevent town meeting in the future from going back and revising it as well.
Exactly.
All right, I have no comments or any concerns about the warrant. I think we did pretty well going over them. So I would entertain a motion.
Motion, let's see. Motion to approve and sign the fall town meeting warrant as presented.
Second?
Hearing a motion in a second. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. All right, next up on the agenda is Town Administrator Evaluation. I guess Dave gets to take it away.
Hang on, I gotta get there.
Gonna have a drink of water before you get
Yeah, I
going.
All right, just so everyone in the public knows, we generally, as an annual event, evaluate Jim's performance. And as usual, I think the evaluations, at least in terms of my expectation, came out as I would assumed. But this is a requirement, and it's based on his performance of the past year. So Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Quite welcome.
This is the Town Administrator Performance Evaluation for 2017. The instructions that we each received, each statement is to be rated with 5 representing an outstanding/exceptional performance and 1 representing extremely poor performance. All unanswered statements will be scored as a 3 in order not to askew the evaluation. Individual evaluations will be combined and presented as a single Board of Selectmen evaluation by averaging the completed individual evaluations. An outstanding/exceptional performance evaluation score is a maximum 100. So the criteria: primary management responsibilities. Number 1, sets specific objectives or direction and mobilizes people and resources to accomplish those objectives. Chairman Lemanik scored a 5, Vice Chairman Hebert a 5, Selectman Hall a 5, Selectman Kinney a 5, Selectman Plant a 5, Board average a 5. And with the board's permission, I'm going to stop reading titles from here on out.
Yep, that's fine.
Number 2, effectively delegates authority to others. Lemanik a 4, Hebert 5, Hall 5, Kinney 4, Plant 5, Board average 4.6. Number 3, displays flexibility in the day-to-day performance of jobs and duties. Lemanik 4.5, Hebert 5, Hall 4, Kinney 5, Plant 5, Board average 4.7. Number 4, sets priorities and effectively communicates those priorities to others for execution. Lemanik 4.5, Hebert 5, Hall 5, Kinney 5, Plant 5, Board average 4.9. Number 5, assigns tasks and duties to others that utilize their skills and strengths most effectively. Lemanik 5, Hebert 4.8, Hall 5, Kinney 5, Plant 5, Board average 4.96. Number 6, makes sound decisions under difficult or pressurized circumstances, taking account of time, cost, and personnel factors. Lemanik 5, Hebert 5, Hall 5, Kinney 4, Plant 5, Board average 4.8. Number 7, develops a budget with thorough reasoning as to needs and requirements of all areas within the town of Sutton. Lemanik 5, Hebert 5, Hall 4, Kinney 5, Plant 5, Board average 4.8. Number 8, exercises sound fiscal management direction of the financial resources available to the town of Sutton. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 5. Implements long-term budget planning for personnel and capital needs. This is number 9. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 5. Number 10, anticipates problems and brings them to the Board of Selectmen's attention in advance with recommendations for solutions. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 4. Kinney, 4. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.6. 11, keeps the Board of Selectmen abreast of problems, resolutions, or the status of work in process on key issues of interest to the board. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 4. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.8. Number 12, involves and advises the Board of Selectmen on the planning process for key activities required to run the affairs of the town of Sutton. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 4. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.8. Number 13, handles conflict and initiates cooperation between other committees, boards, and town employees in a professional manner. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 4. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.8. Number 14, presents ideas and gives instructions to other committees, boards, and town employees in a clear, concise, and persuasive manner. Lemanic, 4.5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 4. Kinney, 4. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.5. Demonstrates good judgment on when and how to involve other committees, boards, and town employees in the process of making decisions. Lemanic, 4.5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 4. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.7. Number 16, promotes and encourages a team approach among department heads. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 4. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.8. Number 17, provides resources and training opportunities for town hall staff for an effective performance of their duties. Lemanic, 4. Hebert, 4.8. Hall, 5. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.76. Number 18, demonstrates a knowledge of and able to utilize state and private organizations as a resource for the town of Sutton. Lemanic, 4. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.8. Number 19, performs functions of town government with a demonstrated knowledge of federal and state laws as well as the regulations provided by the town of Sutton. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 5. Plant, 5. Board average, 5. And number 20, performs the functions associated with personnel in the areas of hiring, disciplining, promoting, and firing in a manner which is professional and in the best interest of the town of Sutton. Lemanic, 5. Hebert, 5. Hall, 5. Kinney, 4. Plant, 5. Board average, 4.8. The overall board evaluation score on the 20 questions was 96.12. Comments. Chairman Lemanic. General, Jim has for another year performed his duties to the town both effectively and professionally. He consistently shows his devotion to both the short and long-term well-being of our community with every decision made. To say that he is an asset is truly an understatement. Not only has he worked tirelessly to maintain a balanced budget and protect our AA bond rating, but he constantly is on alert for any potential shortfalls which may arise in the foreseeable future and is dedicated to the protection of our interests and services from such threats. I thank him for the service, dedication, and guidance he provides for the town. Strengths. As I stated in my evaluation last year, and believe even more so today, Jim is the perfect manager for our town. He has built an incredible leadership team of dedicated department heads who serve Sutton with honor and distinction. In overseeing operations, Jim does not micromanage. Instead, he ensures that every decision made is a team effort. Whenever I speak with those who work in town hall, I always hear the same. Jim isn't afraid of saying no, but he is always willing to be told no as well. He has tremendous respect for his team, and this respect is returned in kind. Further, he cares not only about the employees who work within the walls of Town Hall, but also for every employee in every department. Jim clearly knows what it takes to be a leader. But one of the things I admire most about him is that in everything he does, he chooses to lead from within the team as opposed to from the front or behind. Weaknesses, none at this time. Vice Chairman Hebert, general comments. Jim is a joy to work with. He brings much insight to the Board of Selectmen and other boards in town. Strengths, sound fiscal knowledge and judgment demonstrates professionalism. Weaknesses, Jim should assign some tasks to others under his direction. Offer some type of training for department heads and employees on promoting customer service. Selectman Hall, general comments. Jim is an excellent town administrator and a pleasure to work with. Sutton, in my opinion, is fortunate to have him. Jim consistently excels in the areas that are most critical to the performance of his duties. Financial planning is an example. Years of discipline, sound judgment, and cultivation of a tight fiscal management philosophy with department heads have resulted in perhaps the most harmonious budget year in memory. But not to rest on the accomplishments. Instead, Jim used the budget presentation as an opportunity to look out over the next few years and warn of potential issues on the horizon. This is demonstrative of Jim's ability to plan and willingness to keep the board and the town informed. This year has also seen the police station project approved by voters and the cell tower project get off the ground. No pun intended. These have been long-term goals of the board, and Jim has nurtured and prodded them to fruition. I congratulate and thank Jim for his service to the town and look forward to our continued work together. Selectman Kenny, general comments. It's been a good year working with Jim as a member of the Board of Selectmen and with the new projects that have been proposed and voted on. Jim has done a great job keeping the taxpayers in mind. Strength, Jim does a great job with allocating the money coming into each department and throughout the town. Keep up with the increase in operational costs within each department and what's needed in town. Weaknesses, would like to see the budget set forth, balance out closer at the end of the year. As stated in previous reviews, always good to be ahead at the end of the year, but how much are we being over-conservative, and could that money elevate some of the operational cost stress? Selectman Plant. Since my election to the Board of Selectmen, I have witnessed nothing but quality and professionalism from Jim Smith. Leadership, forward-thinking, and strong understanding of budget controls are the specific key qualities I see in Jim. Not to mention he has the right temperament and focus to manage the various personalities, leadership challenges, and needs for our citizens.
Well done, sir. I suggest you take a drink. Ooh. John, do you have any comments for Jim?
I do.
Make them lengthy so Dave can get a break.
Yeah, thanks.
No, to be serious about it, it's an honor for us to fill out this evaluation because I think we really put in a lot of time and a lot of thought because we do a lot throughout the year and we see his ups and downs and everything. And the good thing about everything, he really has a balance to what he does, and he's a pleasure to work with. But Jim, you ought to be proud of the evaluation you have from all of us, but we're proud to have you, and we are very proud to make out a nice evaluation for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would just say congratulations. I think when I read this, I see this as a very strong review. I think that's the general tenor of what's been presented here. Certainly, I think that's what's deserved. Ray, I'm glad you're here this year because I like to say this every year, and you haven't heard it before, so I get to repeat it with, I struggle with this particular form because the numbers themselves, if I wrote this 3 days in a row, I would have different numbers, each of 3 days. So for me, it's really not about the numbers. To me, it's about, from my own personal take on this. It's the comments that we have that really reflect, I think, the meaning behind the numbers. So I wrote down a couple of notes, and as I was reading the comments from the other board members, a lot of what I wrote down was really reflected in the notes that I wrote. I think the greatest strength that you bring to the job is the cultivation of your staff. You have the ability, you've demonstrated the ability to attract really good people, and then you have developed loyalty from those people, respect, I think, from those people, and I think that helps you do your job. We were speaking briefly about Chief Belcito before the meeting, and that's what you said, that having good people around you is what helps you do your job so well. And I think that is demonstrated across really every department that you have here in town. You have great people, and the reason that you have great people is because you have promoted that kind of loyalty with the way that you work with those people. So that's a tribute to you and to those people. I said it's interesting because to do this job well, you need to have a skill set that is really, pretty broad. You have to have working knowledge of, police departments, fire departments, sewer, highway, health, all the other departments, not to mention a great handle on the finance of the town. And so you certainly get the support of your department heads, but to really understand the issues that come before town, it's not enough to have great department heads. You really have to have a working knowledge of how all of that impacts the town, the political implications of the issues that come before town. It's not easy to put all of these things together. I think it's your demeanor and your understanding of as I said, the politics. You need to work with the public, you need to work with all the employees of the town, and you need to work with this board. And, there are times when working with this board can be a difficult thing. There's 5 of us here that are responsible for tonight in particular, where we have to evaluate you. We hire and fire you is the bottom line. And, I think in a lot of ways, you don't always see, the public doesn't always see the fact that there are 5 personalities and 5 approaches to our job and 5 approaches to the issues that come before the town. And you do an excellent job of balancing all of those personalities and still putting forth an agenda that gets carried out and actually lets things happen and progress in town. It's difficult. And you do an excellent job of it. So thank you and congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mike?
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, Jim. It's been a pleasure this year working with you. Selectman Hall had mentioned just the idea of 5 different attitudes and personalities that we each bring, and to be able to just this board alone, never mind all the different departments, to be able to work with people and the bottom line is, like I said, is always keeping the townspeople in mind. And I think I'd mention it, the quote was recently in the newspaper with you. How you handled that is, typical of how you deal with issues. You keep it people first, the taxpayers in mind first, and find ways to make it happen after that. And it seems like it's the same way from when I talk to people in town, different departments, that, the department heads feel the same about you and their employees, is the fact that you take care of them and that you're a pleasure to work with, and you're approachable. So, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Ray?
Jim, there's a few qualities that I mentioned in my comments, but they all a knowledgeable leader, a leader with respect, a leader with integrity, an honest leader, and just strong leadership skills. Those are some of the things that I've heard prior to being elected to the Board of Selectmen. Speaking with some of the members here and some folks that work in different departments throughout the town, the one common thing was, you're going to work well with Jim, and he's going to work well with you, and you'll find the leadership and someone from the town that that has the town in mind and has our good thoughts for us and has a direction for us. It's only been a short period for me. I look forward to the next 2 years, 3 years, but keep it up. It's a pleasure working with you, and I'm learning from you as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. And if you don't mind, I'm going to steal a line that you just said, because when I think of Jim, it rings true for me that he always has the town in mind. I mean, I know you are not, in the eyes of the people who are born here and live multi-generationals, a true Suttonian, but you've made Sutton your home. And in every decision that you make it for the good of the town as a whole. You're always looking out to protect the town. You're always there, being open, transparent, putting the town on notice if something is, looming on the horizon, and you're always there for the town. And I can speak, for example, there was one day, oh God, it had to be in the spring, and I just happened to stop by and talk to you about something, and your door is always open, by the way, and an irate townsfolk came to town, and he had some issues, and he was, in a little upset, and you just calmed him, you talked to him, and he walked away satisfied that you gave him the time to hear his concerns and answer his questions. And it was a non-issue, and then you just took it in stride, and then you went on to the next thing. I mean, it's just, you are perfect for the town, and I really feel that we are blessed to have you, and I'm hopeful that we have you for many, many more years to come. So thank you for all that you do every single day on our behalf.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just to say a few quick words, I'm obviously humbled by this evaluation. I've mentioned in the past, it's not one of my favorite events to go through, but it's required. It's part of state law that we go through this process, and I've been doing this for 23 years, so I'm used to it at this point. This is my hometown. My kids are being raised here. They're in Sutton schools, and I live here with my wife and 2 kids, and it's just important that I try to do what's right for the town. Whenever I do anything, I hear Mike Chizzy in the back of my head talking to me, like, coaching me through it, saying, hey. But as has been said by the board members, I owe a lot of credit to the department heads that I work with. And to Deb Jakes and to Tim Harrison and Jen Hager and Matt Belcito and Dennis Toll and John Kuchar. Everybody has the town of Sutton in their best interest, and that's why we get so much done. We're a team. We had a department head meeting this morning. We talked about a number of different issues, and we're always figuring out how we can get things done as a team. A lot of these leaders, department heads, have become leaders in the state, and that's a tribute to the town of Sutton. So we are a very small town, but we get statewide recognition by the department heads that serve this town. So I'm very proud of them. I'm proud of the work that we've done as a team, and I appreciate this eval. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is not there. Authorization of chairman to sign aggregation contract. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doreen DeFazio is here as the energy manager / project manager / helper of all things. We are currently working on a new aggregation contract. As you're aware, that we had a 1-year agreement with Public Power that is done essentially in end of December, beginning of January. I think we've had a great experience with Public Power, as well as Peregrine and Bay State Consultants. They did a great job for us. We're going to stay with Peregrine and Bay State Consultants, but we need to go out to bid again because it was a 1-year contract. We recently had the
indicative pricing.
Yeah, thank you. The indicative pricing. And we had a conference call with Peregrine and Bay State Consultants. They indicated that there were 6 companies that responded to the indicative pricing. All 6 are licensed in Massachusetts. All 6 are currently serving other towns as an aggregate supplier. So they're all reputable companies. We're just going through the process, and part of this process is we will receive bids at the end of October. And what we typically do is meet or have the chairman available and set up a meeting where the chairman can sign the contract on behalf of the board, and then we can get our current pricing. You want to talk about National Grid's rates and situation?
So National Grid basic service rate just came in at 12.67. So the last price was 9.43. And so you can tell that the market has increased, the costs that will carry them through next May. They're allowed to go out to bid twice a year. So we were told through Peregrine that this has to do with load changes, obviously the energy market. We found out that they also combine all the load zones in Massachusetts and average them to one. So all these things brought their price up to that. So, just to be clear too, that whatever is signed will be below the National Grid rate. The chances of it being the 8.4 rate are pretty low. They will most likely be higher than that, but they will be below the National Grid rate. So we are potentially looking at a 24-month contract. We did the 12-month contract last year just because we were new to the program. We wanted to see how it went with the residents. The response was great. I think I can't remember the percentage, but it's pretty high, the amount of residents that took advantage of the program. So the best pricing in the indicative pricing came in at the 24 months. So we'd like to consider that as well. And as Jim said, Public Power may not be our provider. And I've actually been working with Peregrine, our consultants. They're helping put together a list for me of all the potential providers and the communities. So reaching out to the communities to give me feedback and Jim feedback on what it's like to work for those companies. And I put a call into a few communities that also look like they could potentially be our provider as well, that gave us the best indicative pricing. So, but we're going to look across the board and, weigh those options as well, too, with the help of our consulting firm. So.
Yeah, let me just add, one of the real strengths of doing this aggregation is, as Doreen mentioned, National Grid does a blended rate between NEMA, SEMA, and WICMA. So Northeast, Southeast, and Western Mass. So those 3 zones, NEMA has the highest rates. WICMA has the lowest rates. We're actually half WICMA, half SEMA, but that's beside the point. Because we're essentially WICMA, most of our buildings are WICMA, we get the lowest rates. NEMA is the highest rates, but National Grid blends the rates, so all 3 are involved. So regardless, we will get a lower rate than National Grid because we just bid out for the town of Sutton.
Right.
So that's a positive.
Yes.
In this process. So ultimately, what we're looking for tonight is the board to authorize the chairman to sign a contract up to a 2-year contract, as long as it's below National Grid's basic offer. And I can assure you that it will be.
All right, thank you.
And we're looking the end of October to sign that contract. We have a date and time in mind.
Wonderful. John, do you have any comments?
I remember I did it last year, and I think
Yes.
we had a conference call.
That's right.
In your office, Jim, and
Same.
it was exciting to get that rate. I think it was 8.7.
Yeah.
For Public Power, where National Grid was 9.4.
Yeah.
And, I've said on many, many times in a lot of things, Sutton is one cut above a lot of other people, because a few years ago, and I've been in town for a long time, you never heard of any of this stuff. We went with National Grid, and that was our power company, and people just paid it. But now, we've taken the step to go out above it and say, hey, we're going to do something better than you folks, and we're going to go through a process. And thank God that we have you, because you're very knowledgeable and you work very, very hard, Doreen, and we see that, you know. But to have this, and a lot of credit is on you to blend everything together. But I'm really, really happy that we're going to be below National Grid, and not just a little bit below. We're going to come out with a good rate. And you know, as you go around town, I think all my colleagues here do the same thing. I've asked a lot of people, gee, did you look at your electric bill? Do you see public power on the back? Do you see the rate that we're getting other than 9.4? Well, not only does that kind of promote all of us as selectmen and everything, but it's for the goodness of the town.
Right.
I mean, we're saving money, and I think this is a plus, and I can't wait to see the bids come in and sign that. And Jesse, don't miss the date, because
I
I'll
will
be
not.
right there.
I will be there, I promise. Thank you, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So John just covered it, but I want to make sure this piece was clear to everybody that might be watching. So this is not just a deal that is for our electricity at the town level, at the town of Sutton level, but this is the contract for all of those individuals around town who have not opted out of the agreement. So whatever we sign here is the power company and power rates that all of us as individuals will pay.
Correct.
Again, unless we have opted out of that. So you said you weren't sure of the number, but it was a pretty high percentage of people that are actually covered by this.
Yes, I don't have the exact number on, we went over it on the call in another meeting, and it was, so, you know, and the thing is, I tell residents all the time, it's a choice, you know, we call it Sutton Power Choice, so it's a you know, value to residents if they want to be on it, but it's certainly if they find something else from another third party that they're comfortable with, they can always opt out with no termination. And not to interrupt you, Dave, but I also want to make it clear to residents that they can still opt in to the current program through the end of the year, and then they would just automatically go into whatever the next contract is.
So those are the three choices for residents. You can sort of do nothing and stay with what we choose here. You can opt out to some other third-party supplier, or you can opt out to National Grid and stay with
Correct.
National Grid. And so, again, National Grid, as I understand it, basically has 2 billing periods during the year, so they can, you know, mid-year they can change their price, typically do change their price. Do you have the numbers on the difference in rate that if you had been with us for the past year versus what National Grid was?
So National Grid was 9.43 as of May, and they just switched to 12.67.
And our rate was?
Our rate has been 8.4
Year
since
for a year.
January 1st, and it will be until December 31st.
So it's really significant
And the
savings.
winter rates last year were in the 11 to 12
Yeah.
range.
Right,
So, but
right.
we had a fixed price of 8.4 cents
Yeah.
all year long.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's almost like third
Significant.
savings. I mean, that's a very significant savings, especially in that higher period.
Yeah.
So, obviously, there is no guarantee. I mean, I think that's a point that we should make. There's no guarantee. We're buying on a contract without knowledge of what the market's going to look like going forward. And so, you know, things could change, and you make the best decision you can at the time. But I think I would say this. I understand our sort of hesitancy last time where it was new to us, but I would certainly encourage us to look at the 24-month contract. I think, you know, I think you can, again, it's all speculation and it's guessing, but
Yeah. Well, we spoke to a couple of, you know, the consultants we've been working with and Bay State consultants who have much more knowledge of the energy market than we do.
Sure.
And they say that it's going to get worse before it gets better,
Yeah.
meaning the prices. And so that's why, you know, Jim and I kind of talked amongst ourselves that 24 months would make sense, and we'd recommend it to the board this time around, because the unfortunate thing that could happen too is we go out to bid in a year and the prices continue to rise, right?
right. So if they've continued to rise, you're bidding in a higher market at that point.
Exactly, yeah.
And so the last question that I have is, you mentioned getting kind of like references for some of the potential suppliers. As users, do we have much of a user impact based on who the supplier is?
Well,
mean,
I think
It's just a name on a bill.
most of the time, from my conversations with residents, it's when people are ending a third-party contract, and they'll usually call me, email me, or stop by the office and say, I'm interested in getting in the program, what do I have to do? And they've had to call Public Power. And I always say to them, if they give you a hard time or you don't, tell them 8.4, and if you don't get that, you let me know right away. And everybody across the board has said they're great. So that's what we're looking for again, is that level of
So
customer
it's a customer
service.
service impact, is what you're
Exactly.
saying. Great.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's really what we're looking for when we talk to these other communities is, how are these companies with customer service?
Right.
And I think early on, we think that a number of these companies are very good with customer service.
Well, I would just say I think this has been an excellent program. I think it's delivered everything that we hoped it would. And thank you, and good luck with the upcoming contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mike?
Thank you. Thanks, Doreen.
Thank you.
I'm definitely all in favor for the 24 months if it's going to decrease the cost, and if that's where the best price point would be at. Looks like it's $4.27 now is what we're saving, 33% till the end of the year on the 1267 compared to the 8.4, which is incredible. I mean, that's just fantastic. Do you have any idea roughly where we may come in at for next year? Is it too early?
It's too early. So we cannot talk about indicative pricing.
Yep.
And so I can speculate that it'll be higher than what we got last year, and we will not sign any contract if it's above the national grid rate.
And part of the reason we don't want to talk about it is, and it's confidential. We could go into executive session if there's really a need to talk about it, but is that it's a competitive process. There are 6 companies that will likely bid on supplying electricity to the town of Sutton. And if we start revealing our low prices of what the range is, it'll give a disadvantage to the low bidder and probably an advantage to the higher bidders. They could bid lower now and undercut the low bidder. So to keep it simple, we don't want to go through that.
Now, would they know going in, they know what we're paying now?
They do.
They do.
So they have an idea of where we feel comfortable probably with 24 months or more without really saying too much, but that's a good thing. That's good then. That's I just wasn't sure if they're aware, because a little bit of a negotiating chip in our pocket.
I do think that, the 8.4 cents per kilowatt hour, I think, was a little bit of a mistake on the public power side. I think they underbid themselves and they underbid the market, and I think they have said it. They felt like it was a mistake. Because most of the other bids were up in the 9.4, but they came in at 8.4 and signed right here. And, John obviously signed very quickly, make sure we got it locked in. But I think that was an error on their part. But then credit to Public Power, they held to that contract. We offered that. That's what we're going to hold to. So my expectation is the rates will go up, especially with National Grid coming in at, 12.67. That's a significant increase.
I want to correct what I said. I said $4.27. I meant 4 cents.
Yeah.
4.27 cents. So that was my mistake when you started talking cents.
Yeah.
It's a little expensive if that were the case. But thank you, Doreen. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Mike. Ray?
Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm assuming that the cost of electricity is jumping up because of the cost to produce, coupled with people using solar. The customer base is maybe not. There's some reduction in usage that's driving up this price. Can you speak to any of that?
That's Part of it, we were told, is that. Part of it is also the fact that there's a lot of communities going into their own aggregation programs as well, right? So there's a lot of different factors. Like I said before, I mean, we just called the experts and, had a meeting in this room in detail and go on their professional advice on, where the market is. And this was before National Grid rate came in, and then they were right on the money with that. And so, like I said, we asked about the contract terms and where we think the market will be going in the next few years. So, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of variables, and I would say solar aggregation programs in this state, have a lot to do with the price driving up too.
Yeah, and if you've been tracking any social media, it seems like over the last few months, people, especially I think maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, people were screaming about the sudden jump in pricing. So this is a great opportunity for townspeople, and I can tell you that my own plan that I went to provided my contract's up, so this couldn't have been, this is great timing. Yeah. And so, I look forward to seeing where this comes out. I'm in total agreement with the 2-year agreement, and I wish you all the best in your negotiation.
One of the issues you've been dealing with in the insurance business down in Texas and Florida are the hurricanes. Yeah. The hurricanes affect not only oil, but also natural gas. Right. And natural gas is one of the lead suppliers of electricity in the country. Mm-hmm. So as natural gases spike up, electricity prices go up as well. So there's a lot of different factors that are involved with this. We just got to make the best assumptions when we go to purchase it.
Well, it's great that we have this opportunity to get a reduced rate anyway. So all the power to you.
Thank you.
No pun intended.
I was just going to ask that. Thank you, Ray. I'd just like to stress one thing, and I'll be completely honest with the public. I use this program. I was a National Grid customer, and when this came in, I wanted it to happen because I knew ultimately, because of the efforts of this board, in the focus of trying to save, residents money, that it would be in the best interest of the town as a whole and me as a household owner to go along with this. And again, the savings have been wonderful. But I would like to stress one key point, and it's something that Doreen mentioned, that if for some reason these bids are above National Grid, then we're going to go with the National Grid rate. Ultimately, we're not going to put users of this program in a position where they'll be worse off. The only focus is to try to save money. And if it's just a couple of cents, it's a couple of cents. I'll take a couple of cents. That's fine with me. And ultimately, I'm hoping, when bid day comes, we're going to be off to the races with a much better rate than whatever National Grid is currently offering. I do have one quick question, though, and this is based upon conversations that I had with seniors, some of which I had call you, and they opted in, and they were very excited after they did. As far as the bills themselves, is there going to be any style changes regardless of who the actual power supplier is?
No.
Okay. So we can rest assured with the public that the bill will come in. It will still look with like a National Grid bill. It will have somewhere in there, the delivery rate, this particular rate, the service, and so forth.
I find, especially with the seniors of this town, what they really like about this program is it's also a fixed rate. So it'll be a fixed rate for 2 years. And it's not, oh my gosh, my electric bill came in $50 higher this month, and it was, I ran the air conditioning a lot. It's a fixed rate of what it is. And National Grid rates change a few times a year, and if they're not paying attention to that, which not many people do until you get your bill and you see that the prices went up, or this happens with third parties a lot too. They'll lock you in, right, and then for 3 months they'll give you a low rate, and then the rate increases every month. And so I tell residents too, if we sign this, potentially for 24 months, that'll be your rate, unless you find something better and you want to opt out.
And they always have that option.
Exactly.
There's no
They
penalty.
have the option of really going back to National Grid.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if National Grid prices become in lower than this contract, they have the option to get into National Grid for whatever period of time, and then opt back into this program.
Yeah, they're not handcuffed whatsoever. They can look out for their wallets.
Completely within their choice.
Yep.
Excellent. I see no issue with the 24-month. Again, realistically, that's a long period. You know, I know back when I used to get oil, there was those couple of gambles. You know, did you pay for the whole year in advance based upon a rate? Some years you won, some years you lost. But again, I don't necessarily see electricity getting any cheaper. So I think this will be, this long-term 24-month contract will definitely be in the best interest of all residents involved.
Thank you.
And of course, you always save us money. I love it when you come before us. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
I just bring her because I know you guys will feel that way, so.
Thank you
All
for
right.
coming out.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the contract to purchase electricity supply as long as it is below National Grid prices.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. All right, next up on,
Thanks, Doreen.
thank you, Doreen. Next up on the agenda is the town administrator's update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few updates for the board, so it'll take a few minutes to go through them. Pigeon Hill closing. You know, the town mailed out a check for $22,000 to our attorneys, you know, et cetera. The bottom line is we closed on the property today. We now own that 1.5 acres at Pigeon Hill Cemetery, which is a real positive. And really thank you to George Kalzik and his family for selling us this parcel of land. You know, it will obviously allow us to extend the cemetery lots up there. It may also provide a location for a communications tower if it's deemed necessary. So I think it was a long process, but a very successful one that we went through. Gilmore Drive streetlights. You may recall I've been working on this since I got here 10 years ago. The previous administration committed to Gilmore Drive Business Association that the town would take over their streetlights. There's a letter of agreement to that effect, written in 2006. We received a check from the Gilmore Drive Business Association. Mike Robinson, who was the chair from the clean company there at the end, NEDT, for a little over $17,000. That was back in 2009 or 10 that we received that check. And all along, they were expecting the town to get moving on putting the streetlights up. Unfortunately, the infrastructure that was done by the developer of that site was below expectations of National Grid standards. So the original developer, who's no longer in the picture, designed it in a way that wasn't acceptable to National Grid. So ultimately, National Grid needs to do extensive work to bring it up to their standards, current standards, and that means roughly not $50,000 now. I just received a call from Kevin Shaughnessy, $72,000. We already purchased the aluminum poles. We purchased the LED lights. We have all the infrastructure necessary, but unfortunately, the cost is significant. So, you know, my opinion is we committed to doing this as a town, and I never go back on those long-term commitments unless some extraordinary factor exists. This isn't one, I don't think, because, you know, obviously the cost of electricity, the cost of the infrastructure was anticipated back in 2009, and that's why they wrote us a check for $18,000. You know, over the last 8 years, the cost has gone up. They weren't aware of the infrastructure issues that existed, I don't think. And ultimately, we're left, you know, holding the responsibility and the commitment to install these streetlights. The plan is to install 4 streetlights, LED streetlights, at various spots along Gilmore Drive, and one at the end of Gilmore Drive at Whitens Road, I think it is, on the pole, existing pole. So it's unfortunate, but I think we need to do it. My plan is, after talking to Kevin Shaughnessy, is to appropriate at Maytown meeting as part of the capital plan this amount of money to get this work done. And this, according to Kevin Shaughnessy, is soup to nuts. All the work will be done, then we'll be able to install the poles and ultimately turn on the LED streetlights. Goddard Lodge rehab, we had two general contractors submit bids for the rehab. The low bid was Cronenberger at $420,000. The other bid was for $423,300. So they were very close. We knew we were on track. Unfortunately, it's more than we have in the grant. We had $409,000 total from private sources, from the town and from the state and from this grant. We could squeak by, but what we don't like is going into a project with no contingency. So we'd really like, we wanted the project to come in at $350, give or take. So our plan right now is to go out to bid in late March, award the bids in mid-April. If the bids come in at the price that we're looking at, then we will award it and they will begin the work. If we need Maytown meeting for an additional potential capital item for 40, 50,000, whatever the number may be, then that's an option for this board. I think this board has shown a continued commitment to rehabbing the Goddard Lodge. I think it's an important step. We came so close. I think John Kuchar and Jen Hager and Jay Gallant did a great job rewriting the bid specs. Ultimately, I think the workload was extensive amongst contractors. We only had 2 bids submitted. We rethought this plan and planning on going out in March or early April and try one more time. We are in discussions with the state/federal grant, the Land Parks Conservation Fund Trust, that we received that original grant from, and the communications are going along in the right direction. So I feel like we'll have an extension on this grant. Hopefully we get the bids in at the right price going forward. Municipid sale of property. We're currently going out to Municipid. The bidding goes from October 12th through October 26th. A lot of questions. We're selling some old cruisers, some old highway vehicles, surplus equipment that we have, as well as a certain amount of surplus equipment from the school department. Hopefully, as you may recall, we made roughly $70,000 on the sale of property last fiscal year. So it's a significant revenue generator at this point in time. Police station building committee received approval from the Planning Commission, Conservation Commission and Planning Board. The general contractors' bids are due on Thursday, October 5th. And then we have a police station building committee scheduled for October 11th. It's a Wednesday night. CMRP representative on Wednesday, September 13th, John Hebert was reelected to the CMRPC's Southeast sub-region. This is his 3rd term in the Southeast sub-region as the this is easy to say, really? Southeast sub-region.
Want me to resign?
No. I'll get through this. Just give me a minute, okay?
We do this evaluation over.
No, it's done. It's too late. I've enclosed a letter from CMRPC, and he does a terrific job, not only representing the town of Sutton, but all the other communities that are part of this. And hey, I had to do it. Golf tournament this Friday is our annual golf tournament. I think this is the 9th year that we've held this to benefit the Mike Chizzy Food Pantry. It goes off on this Friday at 9 a.m. at Clearview Golf Course in Millbury. The board is more than invited to attend. Green fees $35 and whole sponsorships are for $100. So I appreciate all the interest so far. Hopefully we'll have a decent day, although it does look like it's a little questionable on the weather. Free cash certification. I did say this verbally last meeting, but I wanted to put it in writing for the board's attention. The free cash was certified at $1,329,196. Sewer Enterprise Fund retained earnings was $175,394, and Transfer Station retained earnings was $49,332. And there's some explanation of where these extra funds came from to certify the free cash. And one last reminder, brush chipping at the transfer station will take place Saturday, October 14th from 8 a.m. to noontime. That's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
John?
Thank you, Jim. Streetlights, Gilmore Drive, I think it's prudent that we just go ahead with the project regardless of it. Not happy that it's 70-something thousand dollars, but we've had businesses there that have made a commitment to us, and they've been there for quite some time, and that's a nice little commercial development that we have in town here, and I think they should have streetlights like everybody else, and I'm in full support for some time down the road. We get this done by spring or whatever. And Kevin Shaughnessy, just look at the work that he did on the flagpole out here with having 3-4 trucks that day and stuff. So that's a plus to us, and he knows what type of a town we are, what type of a person you are, and you, Doreen, and I think it's a plus. We get a lot of the supplies already in place.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Regards to Goddard Lodge, I'm very, very comfortable that we're going to relax a little bit and put it out in March or April. You know, the first bids come in, some of them were up around $700,000. The second bid was around 500,000. Now we're 423 and 400. But keep in mind that we did scale down quite a bit, and but it's still going to be a nice place.
Yeah.
It's going to be just what we want.
Right.
And we're going to scale it down a little bit more. And the people that have now bid the 423 and the 420, they know we're serious. And they're going to come back in March, and hopefully they'll chip away, because we're going to look at that with the expertise of John Kuchar and stuff, and scale it back just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a good project. I want to get it done with.
Yep. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, thank you for the update.
Sure.
I wanted to also talk about the lights down at Gilmore Drive. I completely agree with John. I think it's unfortunate that the project itself has taken so long to come to sort of fruition, or close to that, I guess. But I agree that we have made a commitment maybe a long time ago, but there's no reason not to continue with that commitment. Frankly, it is right in line with the rest of the things we've done around town anyway. To own the streetlights, and particularly to have them as LED streetlights. So I think this is just more of what we're already doing. And so, the cost, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. As you know, I work on Gilmore Drive, and I'm in that first property as you come in. But I can say this: there's what might be, to some people, a surprising amount of traffic that's on that road. Lifesong Church is down there. There's a lot of kids, so I think the lighting is appropriate to have there. Even if you're down there late, there's a surprising amount of traffic that's on that road at strange hours of the night. So I think having it lit for public safety purposes is the right thing to do. So I'll be be glad to see that get done. So Goddard Lodge. John, I'm glad to hear that you're happy about where we are. That's important to me. We as a board have been committed to this project for a long period of time, and I think continuing to support it is important, particularly given the resources and where those resources have come from. I think there's been some local contribution, the town's commitment, but we've had significant commitment from the state and from the federal government and from private donations. Very significant contributions from private donations. So, we really need to continue with this and see it come to its conclusion. So, I look forward to having that happen. I would like to say something about CMRPC. Just
I have to get up at 3:30 in the morning, get going with it.
just briefly, 3 terms, and, and I think, as we'll talk about later, just another example of the good things that happen for members of our community around the state. So congratulations, John. Thank you for doing that. Look forward to the golf tournament. I'm done.
Thank you, Dave. Mike?
Excellent update, Jim. Thank you. Pretty much hit it. You hit pretty much anything that I had. Selectmen before me also hit it. I did want to say congratulations to John, though, for 3rd term.
Thank you.
And look forward to another multiple terms.
3 more terms.
3 more terms. You're halfway there, John.
I know.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you,
All
Mr.
set, Mike? Ray?
A couple of quick questions. Jim, on the streetlights, you mentioned a $17,000 check that we received in '09.
Yeah.
Does that offset, so we have a $72,000 bill, so would that be less than $17,000?
Well, in theory, but, ultimately, the revenue was recognized back in 2009, so,
Everything was
I don't have any money right now. But, and they wrote the check, and we accepted it and appreciated everything, and at that time, I didn't know about these infrastructure issues, but,
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think we need to honor our commitment, and we have a church on the street, we have businesses on the street. This time of the year, it's darker earlier. They need lights, so yeah, I think we need to move forward with that. Hopefully, it happens sooner than later. As far as Goddard Lodge, I'm assuming that the bid process that'll go out in the spring, we're looking at maybe a reduced scope or a different scope. Is that essentially what obviously the numbers come in higher than we expected?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Well, we're going to, we took a break after the bid opening a week or 2 ago and just,
Sticker shock?
Yeah, well, we're just going to relax a little bit. And I think, one of the things we can do is look at the file subbids. The file subbids in total came out to roughly $70,000. If they were cut in half, then we could have barely made the project happen.
Yeah.
So one of the thoughts is we eliminate the painting aspect of it and just won't paint anything. We're going to just put it in. It's, we'll do all the renovations, infrastructure. The building will be sound. The deck surrounding the building will be sound. But we'll have to hold off on the painting and ultimately get volunteers or some other entity to do the painting on their own. That's one thought. That would save us roughly $30,000. And there were some other thoughts, but
I hear John's a great
That would be Kuchar, right?
yeah, right, exactly. Thank you. Whew. Yeah, John Kuchar actually doesn't like painting much either, but so there are some thoughts on how we can continue to refine the plans and specs to make it doable.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And congratulations, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Ray. All right, I got a couple ones, and I'll go very quick because we don't want to keep John out too late. Thank you to Mr. Kauzic, obviously, for Pigeon Hill, and it's nice that that's coming to a close. I think it's more than appropriate as far as the lights on Gilmore Drive. It's a long-standing issue. I give credit to the Business Association for their amazing patience, so ultimately it's the right thing for us to do to get this done. Goddard Lodge, it's timing. I would assume, the bids are going to come in high because it's fall. Hopefully we'll get the lower prices in the spring. Thanks to Debbie for all her work she does in putting municipal bid together. John, it was a unanimous decision, the vote, for your 3rd term. And there was supposedly someone who was going to challenge him, and he didn't show up because he knew
Good decision.
that John's reelection was inevitable. So it was an honor being there and having a chance to vote for you, my
One of the
friend.
11 towns who were there to vote. So it was nice. It was a good thing.
Yeah.
Concom and planning, thank you to all the members on those boards for the process with the police station. I'll tell you, I learned a lot. I really learned a lot. And it's nice to see the thought and efforts that they put in to all the work that those boards do on behalf of the town as a whole. So thank them all. And last but not least, brush chipping. I have a plan for everyone who's listening. Go to brush tipping, then go up to Waters Farm, and then get your apple crisp, and you'll have a perfect day. All right, announcements, Selectmen's Roundtable, correspondence, and business topics. John? Dave?
Just one item. Last week, we had held here in town a meeting of the District 7, I think it's the Fire Chiefs Association or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's the District 7 mutual aid group.
And so at that meeting, Chief Belcedo became the chair/president of that group. And so Jesse and I actually had a chance to go to the meeting and the dinner that they had that night. And, so first of all, congratulations to Chief Belcedo. It's a great honor. He's a great representative of our town. He is one, like John, of many representatives of our town that have been recognized across the state for their leadership and the good work that they do. If you had gone to that meeting, you would be even more impressed with Chief Belcedo, not only for his performance that night, but for the group of people that he now leads. Those are some impressive people that were at that meeting, and the work that they do as a unit to prepare for emergencies and to listening to them, the professionalism that they bring and the efforts that they've made over the course of many, many years to improve our emergency preparedness, and they work as a team. They work with the state government. The state fire marshal was actually at this meeting. They work with the federal government. We had teams ready to go to Houston. They didn't actually get called, but they were like the next group up. They had a team that had gone to some forest fires out in Canada. So when you realize the caliber of people in that room and knowing that Chief Belcedo is now leading that group, it's very, very impressive. And I learned a lot from being at that meeting that night. So congratulations to the chief, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dave. Mike?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Right?
I'm all set. I have nothing tonight.
All right, I have three quick ones. First, I'd like to once again congratulate Glenn King on yet another win, but this time was at the Big E. Once again, he came in, first place with his special sheep that he raised. So, I mean, that's just fantastic. Again, local farmer being successful. I'd like to thank St. Mark's. We made the monthly delivery to the food pantry. It was more than generous. And of course, I'd like to also, as Dave did, congratulate Chief Belcedo. I agree with everything that Dave said, so I don't think I need to add much more than. There was one point that stuck with me that came from Matt, was the fact that just 2 years before, District 7 was unable to send people. But last year, all of the departments in the district started working together, engaged in specialized training, and getting individuals willing to volunteer. And I think the fact that they actually had a team, I think they said like 12 members that were ready to go on a moment's notice down to Texas, just like that, speaks volume to the commitment that all of the department makes to this municipal aid. And I think we're lucky to be a part of it, and we're even luckier to the fact that our chief is chair for the next few years. All right, the last thing I'd like to do is the food pantry list. And even though St. Mark's did make a wonderful delivery, the list is getting longer. Obviously, the kiddos are back in school, but let's think the cold weather's coming, so we need some hearty meals to keep the energy going. For vegetables, Michelle is looking for potatoes and yams. It's almost Thanksgiving, so she's starting to look for cranberry sauce. For canned meats, hearty stews like beef stews, Spam, and canned hash. For breakfast items, they're looking for Hut cereals. For desserts, brownie mix, pie fillings, pie crusts. For condiments, mayonnaise and gravy. In personal items, hand soap, toothbrushes, toothpaste. In the household area, dish soap. Thank you. All right, I think we've gotten through another agenda. I'd entertain a motion to close.
So moved.
Hearing a motion and seconded.
Second?
Any comments? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Have a nice night, everyone.
Jim, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for everything.